We've taken food into the oral cavity, past the tongue and salivary glands, which each have important functions, through the pharynx, down the esophagus, and now we're going into the stomach. That's where we've been so far. And the stomach, this is where we are. Things are going to get complicated. Stomach and small intestine are probably the most complex. We've got regulation and hormones and all kinds of stuff. So we're doing the stomach this week, and then small intestine, large intestine, accessory organs of the liver and gallbladder will also be next week. So before we dive into the stomach, let's actually dive into the stomach. What are the functions of the stomach? Learning check. Main functions. It's going to be everything except for ingestion and defecation, everything that the digestive system does. So we're going to have propulsion. This is going to be a form of peristalsis that is going to be smooth muscle contractions, just like it was in the esophagus, to allow food to go from here to there. We need to do that. Then we've got mechanical breakdown. I'm gonna do these in different colors. They're not necessarily the same colors I did in that last video where I color coded this stuff. Mechanical is not spelled that way. Mechanical breakdown. This is going to be churning and mixing waves. It's also via muscles that are going to mix stuff up. That's what that looks like, right? We are going to have chemical digestion. You just need to write that for your learning check. This is going to be primarily, I'm adding some more detail. HCl, acid, and pepsin are the two big ones. Pepsin is an enzyme, HCl is an acid. There's some fat digestion as well. These are enzymes or highly acidic things that are going to break bonds or denature proteins, in contrast to churning. Last thing is absorption. Absorption is not huge in the stomach, but there's some. So primarily alcohol, aspirin, vitamin B12. These are actually lipid soluble things that are absorbed here. The small intestine is the major area where chemical digestion and absorption are going to occur. So this is a big one. This is a pretty big one, much smaller one. Starting out with some stomach anatomy. There are regions to talk about, layers, and some other features. First of all, you hopefully know this is the esophagus. And this is the small intestine, specifically the duodenum. I'm just going to label it small intestine for now. We've got a sphincter in between those. The lower esophageal sphincter is not really ever shown. Let's add it. So regions of the stomach, the first one coming in from the esophagus is the cardia, kind of near the heart. We've got this big sloping side over here that's called the fundus, kind of like a fungus, like a mushroom. We then have the body is the main part, the main body, I suppose. And then we've got down here, the pyloric antrum. This valve is called the pyloric valve. We've got a couple of curvatures here. One curvature is much bigger. This is the greater curvature. This curvature is much smaller. It's the lesser curvature. And these things would help you orient yourself to when you're looking at a stomach. Okay, that's the regions, layers. Do that in a different color. layers, the outer layer, that visceral peritoneum or serosa is this. In here, this would be the lumen. I'll go ahead and label that. Then we've got a bunch of muscle layers, as you can see. So these are all the layers of muscles going different directions. This is our muscularis. There is a longitudinal, a circular, and oblique layers. That's going to allow our stomach to churn and contract and then churn in all different directions. Okay, and that's the same histology as the rest of the digestive system, right? I mean, I guess you can't really see it. The lining of this, the inside here, would be epithelial. We'll look closer at that when we zoom into detail, but it fits with our anatomy histology of the alimentary canal. The other thing you can see here is all those like bumpy, crazy things inside, adjacent to the lumen, surrounding the lumen. Those are called rugae. Here is a picture of rugae in a real stomach that is like deflated. Rugae are folds. When you eat a lunch, your stomach unfolds and expands and fits more. So that's what these rugae are. They're just folds that can expand. Let's look more closely at the actions that the smooth muscles of the stomach allow our stomach to do. So peristalsis is the contraction of the stomach muscle. The first thing that allows our stomach to do is have propulsion. We're going to go from the esophagus and move down closer to the pylorus. So from the cardiac region and fundus to the body and ultimately pylorus, the pyloric end. Pylorus. This is waves moving in one direction. As the food gets close to the pyloric end, those waves get even stronger, and those waves force the pyloric sphincter open. Here's our sphincter. When it is forced open, food, which is now called chyme, enters it. Chyme is a very acidic fluid that passes from the stomach to the small intestine, ideally. You don't want that coming back up the other way. It's acidic, you know that, right? It contains gastric juices and partially digested food. So that happens, that's grinding, some is forced out, the rest kind of gets pushed back. And that's the last piece here is retropulsion. So going back, because kind of the force against that sphincter, most of the contents of the stomach is actually pushed backwards into the stomach opposed to through that sphincter. This is going to allow it to mix, right? This is going to happen over and over again. We're going to have further propulsion and retropulsion that is the over and over mixing and grinding of food. Very convenient. The process by which this happens, so the entry to the duodenum through the pyloric sphincter is tightly regulated, and the properties of this chyme are going to be important. So like how acidic is it? How much is the food digested? How much of there is it is going to feed back to regulate gastric activity.